Hello and welcome to Customer Success Rants and Musings. My name is Rick Adams from practicalcsm.com, and today's episode is titled, When Has Onboarding Been Completed? Well, it's a good question actually, because if we think about it, in the world of X as a service, which I think most of us are in, we could argue that actually there is no end to anything. It's very much a circular thing. And the way that the customer is going to renew their contract means that we're going to be working with them hopefully forever. That's our intention. And over that time, we're going to have people leave and new people be employed, and they're going to need to be onboarded. We're going to have people move sideways between departments, and they're going to need to be onboarded. We're going to have changes to how they use our product, which means that maybe new people who are involved in a different process now need to be onboarded, who didn't need it before. Maybe our product is going to dramatically change sometimes. Maybe we're going to need to go back and onboard people with the new features and functions of our product. So for all sorts of reasons, onboarding, you could argue, never actually stops. So with that parked for a moment, though, of course, nevertheless, there is still a kind of a process of onboarding, and we could say that it does have a sort of a start and a finish. Well, let's just look at where onboarding comes from for a moment, which is from the airline industry and similar sort of transportation. So if we imagine the onboarding as used by that industry. So when has onboarding ended? Well, when the plane can take off. When can the plane take off? Well, once all the passengers are on board, once they've sat down, their seat's upright, their tray is folded away, they've put their seatbelt on, and now we can take off. We cannot take off until everybody's sat down with the seatbelt on and all the rest of it. That's the rule. So there is a very definite, finite moment when we can say, right, everybody's onboarded. Now I can close the doors, taxi to the runway to take off. So similar concept here. And by the way, once the airplane hasn't gone anywhere yet, right? We haven't done anything useful. We've just onboarded, ready to do something useful. And now we've got to take off. And when the airplane takes off, by the way, it takes off in the direction that the runway faces. It doesn't take off in the direction of where we want to go. So then we've got to circle round until we get to the right height. And once we're at the right height, we need to change direction and start actually doing something useful. We haven't even got to that bit. We're still on the ground. So this is very similar to onboarding in our profession. Let's take a look at that. So I would suggest that onboarding has occurred once the customer knows what they've bought and how much of it and how to access it, why they've bought it, how it's going to help them, and what they need to think about in terms of outcomes and so on, and what needs to be done. What are the tasks? What are the functions? Who needs to be trained? Who needs to be communicated to? So in broad terms, at a high level. So once the customer has generally understood, I've bought this for this reason, I bought this much of it, I access it like this, and these are the things that need to be done in order for the people who are going to be using it to be good at it and to start generating revenues. We have onboarded the customer. The customer still needs to do those things to get to the point when they can generate revenue, and that is the process of adoption. And then and that's like the taking off. And once the adoption is done and we've changed direction and we're heading, that's like the value realization. And just like on a flight, we do short onboarding for a few minutes, hopefully, short takeoff for a few minutes, and then hours if it's transatlantic, for example, of flying. Same here. Short onboarding, short adoption, hours of value realization, months and indeed years of value realization. Final thought, just to leave you with as well, is I'm often asked, well, who performs the onboarding activities? And I see conversations where people would say, well, product does it, or marketing does it, or sales does it, or customer success does it. Well, I would argue that ideally, actually, the customer does it. Okay. And I would say that the CSM should be in charge of helping them. Now, let's go back to the passengers onboarding an airplane. Who onboards the passengers? Answer, the passengers. Okay, with help from the steward and the stewardess, for sure, but the stewards and stewardesses don't walk down the steps, pick up the next passenger and carry them and put them into the seats, right? No, they stand at the top and they invite us in, and then they look at our ticket and say, second island on the left, or whatever they're going to say. Okay, they help, they guide, they don't do. Same thing here with us. We want to make this process of onboarding as quick and as self-sufficient as possible. Why? Because it helps us to be more efficient. We can do more because we're not doing things we don't need to do, which is things that the customer can do. Also, the customer's happier because they're not waiting for us. Imagine how long it would take if the steward went and got the next passenger, and then we were all waiting for them to finish that passenger before they went and got the next. No, we want to all get up there and queue in and all the rest of it. So it's actually helpful for the customer as well. So there we go. Those are my thoughts on the topic of when onboarding ends. And I look forward to talking to you in future episodes about other customer success topics. Bye for now.